was quite simply a horrible day at Tannadice yesterday as Aberdeen lost by 4-0 against winless Dundee United. Let that sink in. Coming into this game, they were winless. Here's your match stats. Aberdeen have now only won 2 out of 23 away league games. United's victory yesterday was their biggest win against Aberdeen since they won 5-0 at Tannadice in November 1997. The very next day, Roy Aitken was sacked as Aberdeen manager. 11,010 fans were there yesterday, 4,000 of which were from the Red Army. So let's put it into context in terms of the league table. So after Hearts' last gasp equaliser today against Kilmarnock, they go a point above us. So we drop down into 6th place on 13 points. Won 4, drawn 1, but lost 4 games. Hi everybody, a very warm welcome to Ali Beg ABTV this Sunday evening. This is the review show. Now, this is a slightly extended show today because about an hour ago, I spoke to 2 huge Aberdeen fans, one from New Orleans and one from his base in Scotland. And we did quite a post-mortem on the game yesterday. So I really hope that you can stick around and enjoy the chat. To introduce the guys, Richard Wilkinson is the admin of a very prominent Aberdeen fan site on Facebook called Aberdeen Football Club, the Beach End Boys, Goodwin Vibrations. He's also the owner of Beat 106 Scotland. And Terry McDermott lives in New Orleans, used to work at the football club. He became famous for doing so well on The Voice US and is now the lead singer of band Lotus Crush. So the 3 of us spoke about the game in depth, as I said, and it's unbelievable. It's coming up a little bit later. I have saved most of my own thoughts for that chat, but I have to be honest with you and very transparent with you. That yesterday, I was left speechless. I watched that game with my jaw on my knees. I couldn't believe what I was watching. And I posted at half time that the performance in the opening 45 minutes was totally unacceptable. Within the first 20 seconds, I knew they were up for the game more than we were. Now take this into consideration. Dundee United were winless. Can't score. Have been smashed by AZ Alkmaar. Smashed by Celtic. They were absolutely there for the taking. With our support, unbelievable support. And we put in a performance like that. Now, I don't know what happened in the dressing room. I am also of the thinking that what happens in the dressing room needs to stay in the dressing room. But I really, really hope yesterday that there were a few choice words said among the senior players. Because if we have any ambitions of being a top one, it cannot happen again. Oh my God. So, get in touch. Tell me what you think. Now, the chat is quite long. It's nearly 25 minutes long tonight, but I am going to get you on tonight. I want to get your viewpoint. But guys, please be mindful of what you say and please don't use bad language. So you will not be forgotten about tonight. I do want your opinions. It is very important. But first, what I would like to do is offer you the thoughts of Johnny Hayes, who came out last night and said this: "We've let a lot of people down, especially a big travelling support of 4,000 people, but also the manager, the staff, and the football club as a whole. I can't really put my finger on what it was that went wrong. I've been in the game long enough to know that every now and again you get a performance like this where nothing goes right for you. Individually and collectively, we were really poor and there are no excuses for that. I applaud Johnny for coming out and saying that. Let's have a quick look at the actual stats from the game. You know, look at the possession that we had, 65.2%, but did nothing with it. We had 14 total shots, but just look, 1 on target. 1. And I reiterate my point about the form that Dundee United were in. 5 off target, and we only managed to win 1 corner in the entire game. It really is quite damning and extremely worrying. Right, get your thoughts in, okay? Let's do the post-mortem with Terry and Richard first, and then I will see you on the other side of the interview. Chaps, a very good evening to both of you. So, we have so much to discuss. First of all, let's start with offering a bit of a post-mortem, and then we will look ahead. So first of all, Terry, I would like to start with the team news. So when we got the team news yesterday, roughly an hour before kickoff, I must admit I was so baffled by the fact that Jim dropped Matty Kennedy down to the bench, because I thought Matty played really well against Kilmarnock. He won the sponsors man of the match, and I felt he would have been better suited to play yesterday than Marley. And I mean this with the greatest respect to Marley. For me, that it just baffled me. What did you think?
I think when I see Marley Watkins' name on the team sheet, I feel pretty similar about it, because it's not as if we had. I'll be fair to him and say that when we were a struggling side, he actually brought a degree of invention. There were moments of creativity. Of course, he couldn't stay in the team long enough to really matter. And we're at a point now where I think, again, with the greatest respect to Marley Watkins, he should be a squad player. I don't think he has the consistency. I don't think he brings enough into the lineup compared to who we have competing for that position. So yeah, again, when you see that, you're like, what, is somebody injured? You know, it's like, there must be an injury, but there wasn't. That was just it would appear that was just a preference on selection. So that's a weird one. That is. And Matty Kennedy, to be fair, I would have been one of his biggest critics last season. Not a huge fan of the winger that can't get past a player. But you know what? He's actually turned in some great performances. So yeah, you would expect to see him in ahead of Watkins every time.
For you, Richard?
I have to agree. I mean, you know, what basically it's been said, you know, Watkins isn't for me a starter. He's the guy that comes on after 60, 65 minutes. And, you know, I wholeheartedly agree. Kennedy had played a blinder last week, deserved to start. I mean, obviously we don't know if there was any niggles or anything like that, but, you know, as you've all said it, I don't need to, elaborate on it. He's not the player, with the utmost respect, that inspires as a starter, as an impact player, as a substitute, maybe. But yeah, I would have preferred to have seen Kennedy certainly up there first.
When I literally relaxed to settle down to watch the game, and within the first 20 to 30 seconds, I'm already on the edge of my seat, starting to feel nervous when Glenn Middleton puts Jayden Richardson on his backside, gets a superb ball into the box, and Jamie McGrath heads it wide. And I was like, this is exactly how we should not have started this game, because if we started strongly, made them nervous, got in and around their back four quickly, buzzed around them, I think they would have crumbled quite quickly. Yet, that whole psychological effect was on a spin immediately, because we allowed them to get on the front foot right from the off. I can't get my head around it, Terry. It's not the way to start a game.
Yeah, it's incredibly worrying to see us come out in a game. You've got 4,000 away fans. The stadium, there's an energy, there's an expectation. They've got a packed away end. If that can't get the players motivated and mentally strong enough to come out and actually go at that team with an expectation that you should be beating the likes of Dundee United, then I do not know what is required. And it leaves me asking questions of the management, to be honest, because why can't you have your team motivated to, from the off, get into them, from the off, be harassing them, chasing them? That was one of the biggest crimes yesterday. Was we got bullied at times by Dundee United. They showed an energy and a hunger that we absolutely lacked all over the pitch. That's criminal. You know, if you're going to lose, if you fight your way through the game and you actually show the heart required and you lose, that's forgivable. What isn't forgivable is basic schoolboy errors that we saw yesterday, followed up by this lack of heart right where we needed it in the team, and this weakness on the wings. I mean, you're saying there the first 20 seconds, that was right in the game. That started there, and it just got worse. We had two players looking like Laurel and Hardy on the right for one of their goals, where they're bumping into each other and not knowing who was responsible. If we're a team that's supposed to be playing out from the back, how can two guys not know their responsibility in that position? Especially with a team that's supposed to be sort of relying on width. So yeah, I mean, where do you start and where do you stop with it yesterday? It was an absolute abject failure in so many places. But yeah, from the off, we had a choice to react to what was going on, and we basically put our tail between our legs and just didn't show the mental toughness to react. And we looked, as I said to my friend when I was texting him yesterday, I said, we look scared.
Yeah. Richard, I want to move on we'll come to the goals in a minute, but I want to talk about the Bojan Miovski miss when it was 0-0. Okay, the ball's got stuck under his feet. I get all that. But a player of his caliber should be able to move his feet quickly enough to adjust to just basically put the ball in the back of the net. And that was the only time in the game that Vinny put in a decent delivery, because our deliveries yesterday, again, I'm scratching my head, mate.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen this, is it? And if I'm right, you saying it was Vinny? I thought it was Jaden Richardson.
No, so Vinny crossed it to Jaden, and then Jaden cut it back. Yeah.
So again, we've seen that combination before, where again, you know, I don't know if Jaden Richardson, it would be better as a right wing back rather than a defender, because it certainly gets forward, but the defending part of his defensive job leaves a lot to be desired. I'm worried about Miovski. I'm worried that I don't know whether his head's been turned or something up in the head. I'm worried, as has been discussed. I'm worried. I was worried yesterday about the mentality, and I really don't want to have Goodwin being in the stands as an excuse for that. Lee Sharp's post-match interview yesterday, I thought, was borderline disgraceful, just in terms of just how he almost sort of kind of like shrugged it off. And I know that possibly he wasn't expecting to do that, or whether it's just not responsibility. From your pre-show yesterday, I think you said that Goodwin was only, in terms of being on the field of play after 15 minutes. So there's absolutely no reason why, I know I'm digressing a little bit, there's no reason why Jim Goodwin can come out. So if the preparation was wrong and the player's mentality wasn't right, as I said, I'm genuinely worried how fragile Miovski's, not having his head in the game, because he needs to be starting to score, and he needs to be starting to score because it's getting worrying, and we're getting back to that feeling of Glass Ball last year, where only having one striker up front, if they're not performing, I've said this on your show a number of times, we've gone about with a mentality that so long as we score more goals than them, because our defence is ropey and weak at the best of times, if we're not scoring. And I think there was some amazing stat about how many non-clean sheets we've had in the past 2 years, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's something like, you would look at it and just, I'm genuinely worried that the defense is leaky, the attacking players aren't banging the goals in the back of the net. Miovski needs some hand. I've said to you before again that we should be playing two up front. I would really love to see that on Sunday against Hearts, because if Miovski needs a hand, and that miss yesterday, I'm sure every Dons fan had their head in their hands, just going, "Oh, not again!" It was a beautiful cross, as you say, the passage of play from Vinny to Jaden to Miovski. can't afford to miss those. And as many people have said on my page, if it was Ramirez, he'd be getting absolute pelters.
Yeah. I have to, in Bojan's defence, I'm not overly worried about his form at home, but I am very worried about his form away from home.
Sure.
Okay, Terry, the opening goal, there were two incidents which troubled me immensely. First of all, the fact that the lad was able to get to the byline, Jamie McGrath, and the fact that Hilber put his arms behind his back, which then, by doing that, he's put himself off balance. His next step is actually back instead of coming to the side, which has offered the boy the room to get by him. The next passage of play is the pass into Tony Watt, who was, from what I can see, 2.5 to 3 yards away from Anthony Stewart and Liam Scales, which has allowed him to get the shot in, which obviously then led to the goal. So, what again? It's a sense of deja vu. What is wrong with our guys leaving these lads so much room in the box?
I mean, from standing at 35,000 feet, looking at the incidents we were seeing yesterday, looking at the problems, it feels like this has been coming. I mean, I don't want to sound like the voice of doom and gloom, but when we lost to Hibs, there were similar issues. And actually, yesterday, I thought exposed a couple of problems. It really put the spotlight on them, which is we changed out pretty much the entire team. I mean, it's almost a brand new side. And yet the mistakes at centre-half particularly, where we're supposed to have this strong partnership with Stewart and Scales. I mean, in the last 3 matches, we've seen Stewart drop off his player or not be aware where the striker is on a number of occasions. And it feels like they're constantly having to clean up their own messes. And on the wing, I'm sorry, but there was just so many times yesterday, it was just absolutely criminal to lose your man and let him constantly get to the byline like that. And what I couldn't understand was, we didn't really make any changes or react to that until half time. Mm. It was a constant thing. You could see that we're getting tortured down there, and we weren't even making any progress on the wings to really take the weight off the fullbacks, because Vinny was, I mean, let's be honest, he was absolutely anonymous yesterday. He was marked out of the game.
Again.
Exactly, again. And that's worrying. And I think when you're talking about, Majowski and that miss, I mean, you don't want to say it out loud, but it just looks to me like there might be a couple of players who need to sit on the bench for a few weeks and have to work harder in training, whatever it is. But this is clearly not a lineup that's happy, because yesterday they fell apart like a house of cards as soon as the pressure was on, and that you can't have that streak of weakness constantly rearing its head every time someone makes a mistake or someone's out of position. And that's what it looks like at this point. It's starting to filter through the team.
See, Ali, I go back to the Motherwell game, and it was me who you spoke to after that game, and the signs were there, and we kind of went, oh, bad day at the office, blah blah blah, etc., etc. The signs were there all the way back in the Motherwell game. The Celtic game, the first game of the season, you chalk it up to it's Celtic, and frankly, we were lucky that it could have been a lot worse. That Motherwell game at home, all the signs were there, and we're now how many games? 8 games, 9 games further down the line, something like that. And now it's a real problem. It's a real issue, and if it doesn't get sorted, I appreciate there's only a few, like 8 games or 7, 8 games before the World Cup, and then the transfer window opens. Something needs to change, and it needs to change sharpish.
Okay, let's move on. The second goal, it's almost carbon copy. Again, 20 Watt is 2 or 3 yards in acres of space. Again, from the 2 centre backs, from a cut back from the byline. You've basically covered it in the first answer, guys. The penalty, oh dear. I don't even know if
Good old Willie.
Oh man, I don't even know if I want to go into it, because it's sometimes.
I think the frustrating thing is that again, I go back to where we are with our manager being stuck in the stands of going, and to me, just my opinion, but feels like it's opinion of a lot of people's, that felt like out and out cheating. It genuinely felt like, and now we can't, our anybody can't say anything because the managers or the assistant managers are going to get put up and potentially given a punishment worse than alleged racist abuse. It's just a joke.
Terry.
It's unbelievable. Obviously we're digressing a little bit to the Jim Goodwin ban situation, but it feels like if we give the SFA any excuse at this point, they are more than willing to hang us from the tree. The whole 8 ban thing. Yesterday, what we probably could have done with was our manager on the touchline dealing with directly with the players with that level of communication. So it just compounds it and just makes it worse. But with regards to Willie Collum, what can you say? I mean, do I get an 8-game ban for calling Willie Collum a cheat? Because I'm sorry, it's like this is constant. This is constant. It's a running joke where you're taking bets with your friends. In what minute will Willie Collum give the opposition a dodgy penalty against Aberdeen? I mean,
it's not a penalty; it's a red card somewhere along the line.
Well, that's it. The red card's a guarantee against Rangers or Celtic. You just have to decide what minute it's going to be in.
Spread betting.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, those are your opinions, chaps.
we bring in the dynamite tonight.
Yes. Thanks a lot, lads. Thanks a lot. Okay, the own goal just for me compounded our misery and was just typical of the day. But I don't blame Ross McCrory for this at all. I have no idea what Kelly Roos was doing or thinking, running at that ball, at that angle, at that pace, when there's no one coming in behind Ross McCrory at all. Oh dear, I think
listen, I'm no footballing expert, and I'm certainly no goalkeeping expert. And again, lots of hypotheses. I wasn't at the game, so I saw it on Red TV, and McCrory wasn't looking where he was heading the ball. Now, again, I don't know instinctively as a goalkeeper, that's where you would expect the goalkeeper to be, and so I don't need to look, and so I'm going to head the ball, blah, blah, blah. It takes two to tango. I mean, Kelly Roos, I don't think anybody, covered themselves in any glory yesterday. But communication. If you're going to go out and get the ball, call for the ball. If you're going to, if you're going to head the ball, comedy of errors.
It was just like you're saying, man. It was symptomatic of so many things yesterday. That just summed up the day we were having.
Right, chaps. That's the post-mortem done.
Come on, we could go on forever here.
Can I just say, actually, just to defend Kelly Roos, there's been a lot of positives from him, but I did think it was funny on the day that he signed from Derby. It was like one of the Derby fans came on Twitter and said, "Oh, you just signed Kelly Roos." And one of the Aberdeen fans says, "Oh, is he a good player?" And he said, "When he signs, he'll probably drop a 10." So I was pretty concerned from that point because apparently he's prone to some fluffers, so he's prone to some gaffes. So
listen, it could have easily have been 5 or 6 after that. I think he did an immense save after that, and I will give him the credit for that. As I said, it wasn't his finest game in a Don's top yesterday by any stretch of the imagination, but he still managed to pull out a couple of great saves. So he's still my man between the sticks.
Right, chaps, one last question because we don't have much time left. Okay, Terry, where do we go from here?
Biggest thing is this weekend, obviously, we've got the big game against Hearts. There has been a consistent problem with beating teams that we're expected to be competing with in the top 6. I mean, at the start of the season, I think we all thought we'd be talking about top 3. At this point, it'd just be nice to beat someone in the top 6. What we have to do is show the fight and guile and concentration that's been missing in patches in these games. It's been costing us points, and we have to do it against Hearts. Hearts are hammer throwers. They're absolute hammer throwers, and they're going to try and bully us all over the pitch. So it starts with the right mental attitude and showing that we're able to stand up to Hearts this weekend and see if we can eke out a result. Because I honestly think we could be in serious trouble this weekend if we don't find a spine.
Okay, Richard.
I posted on the page a somewhat controversial starting 11, and
let's hear it.
Right, okay, I'm going 4-4-2 because that's, you know, I mean, in some respects, it's a good job I'm not the manager. But if it was me and in my football manager capacity, I'm playing 4-4-2. I'm dropping the captain because, frankly, you know, I know that's never going to happen. But my back four is Coulson, Scales, Milne, and McCrory at right back. My midfield four are Hayes, Clarkson, Barron, and Kennedy. I don't expect Clarkson and Barron to play the whole 90 minutes, but if we can get a good 60 minutes out of them, I think that would be amazing. And I'm having Miovski and Duk up front. I think, you know, Miovski up front clearly is having a few issues. And I think if you stick Duk up there, I'd love to see, we didn't really get a great deal of time seeing them together at the Hibs game before chaos ensued. I'd love to see what they can do together with a full frontal attacking football, safe in the knowledge that we're probably going to lose a few goals. So we need to score some goals. And if we lose a few, we still might win the game. But at the moment, that defence is worrisome. We're not scoring goals as many as we should do. So have two strikers up front, and hopefully that can, you know, spread the burden. And if it doesn't work, if Miovski's not firing, then get Ramirez on and still play two up front.
Okay. Chaps, we have run out of time. Thank you so much for your contribution tonight. It's much appreciated. And no doubt we shall speak again, and hopefully it's on better terms.
Can I just say one thing? And we touched upon it, and I'm sure you've probably touched upon it elsewhere as well. Absolute kudos to the 4,000 fans that went down there and watched and endured that yesterday. You know, best away support in the country in terms of distance travelled and what have you. And genuinely, you know, I would have been devastated. What was the new time, the experimental time, Saturday night, Dundee United, you know, new firm, old firm, depending on how you look at it, Derby, and I just say to the 4,000 fans who were there, absolute kudos to you.
Yeah, and they deserved so much better.
Yes. Yeah. Can I make a request that when you're doing your next show, that maybe you could talk about when I'm allowed to start panicking that Connor Barron hasn't signed a new contract, considering how amazing he was. I'd love to know when I'm allowed to start panicking about that.
When he came on yesterday, I thought he was brilliant, and he has to start on Sunday. He has 100%. To start.
And I'd have Johnny Hayes as captain because, again, seeing his interview in the Daily Record, I didn't see a video of it, so there may be a video, but just, you know, where is our captain in terms of post-match interviews? He went out there and absolutely said it like it was. And, you know, in terms of commitment, passion, 100% effort, Johnny Hayes is showing up the rest of the team. And, you know, he should be given the captain's armband because it would appear our captain needs two to keep afloat.
Yeah. I think there was an incident yesterday. Don't take this for gospel, because I'm taking this from memory while we're just talking. I'm absolutely convinced that at one point he was having very strong words with Anthony Stewart about a certain passage of play. One of our players should not be having to do that to our skipper.
No.
Right, chaps, we have to go. Thank you. Lovely to see you both. Enjoy
Good
your
chat.
week. We'll speak to you again. Thanks, lads.
See you next week.
See you next week.
next time.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. There we go. So my thanks to Terry and to Richard. Wow. So many of you tonight on YouTube. Unbelievable. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for commenting as well. Just very quickly, I'm going to try and get through as many as we can. Many of you agreed with Richard's pick for Hearts. Some even suggested he should become the new manager. And a lot of you are commenting how cool Terry's t-shirt looks. Right, I'm going to have to get through some of these before I give you some good news. Right, where do we start? Deary me. Carl MacD said, "This is the first time this season I felt very worried about the team. Scott W said, get a gutting result, but in all honesty, there's no point getting all gloom and doom about it. I've said many times we are going to be inconsistent until it all comes together. We'll be okay. A lot of you have questioned Anthony Stewart and his stewardship of the team. I have to be honest, and I don't like saying this, but I will be transparent with you. The jury is still out for me on Anthony Stewart. Very poor defending from what is supposed to be our 4 best defenders, said Paul Donaldson. James McCaskill said, good evening. Hi, James. Quality in fight just wasn't there. The support yesterday was incredible, and given the expense, cost of living, etc., the players need to acknowledge what is acceptable, and yesterday wasn't. So many of you commented on the fans that travelled down, and so many of you felt that they were all short-changed. I could not agree more. Steve Jameson said, Johnny Hayes gets it, nobody else does. David Cobb said, I was absolutely in shock. I couldn't believe how bad we were. It was as bad as it gets against very poor opposition. Horrific. Yvonne Kerr says, Hayes' statement was far better than our assistant manager's interview. Assistant manager seemed less concerned by the performance and result. Okay, I'm going to give you my thoughts on what Lee Sharp said. Now, I'm not defending his comment. Not at all. It was ill-advised and slightly naive. But I have to be honest, I don't think he should have been there in the first place. And if an assistant manager all of a sudden gets thrown into a situation like that, now, I don't know whether he was or whether he wasn't, but in my opinion and in my experience in the broadcasting industry, he should have been briefed. Now, if he wasn't briefed, then questions have to be asked, because you cannot expect a guy after a defeat like that to go out and speak on camera and try and say the right things. Trust me, it's very, very difficult. So, again, I'll be very honest and very transparent. I think Lee was thrown under the bus a little bit yesterday. It's just my humble opinion, of course. Okay, let's get to some more of these comments. So good, so good. Thank you. Majowski was murder, said Kaiser. I agree. His away form is not good, eh? Home form I don't have an issue with, as I said in the interview. Home form, away form, dearie me. Paul Herd, we weren't dominated. It's just they were ruthless and played with drive. We were wasteful and pedestrian. DJ Egg said, always looked fragile from the word go. Completely agree. Completely agree. Let's get a couple more in. So many of you commenting about Anthony Stewart. Okay, Alexander Wallace has said, we need Ramirez to play in behind Majowski. Control was what we were missing yesterday. Think Ramirez can provide the link from midfield. Yeah, possibly. Excuse me. Let's see what else. Yeah, okay. A lot of you are talking about the next week's team news. Jeff Moran, I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Tempted to play McCrory and Hayes as fullbacks. Far too easy to get in behind us. That also leaves room for Connor, Leighton and Matty to play. Do you know, for me, Connor has got to start next week. And I also think that Matty Kennedy should start next week. And, do you know, like what Richard mentioned, is there a place for Jack Milne to come in at centre-back? Potentially. That centre-back partnership at the moment is a problem for me. Right, I have some good news for you. I've got a brand new Beggs interview coming out next week, and it is with this guy. Oh. First of all, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't seen it. This is who's coming up next week. It is Graham Shinney. We had a fantastic chat last week, and I shall bring that show to you on Wednesday night. So look out for that. And if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, if you haven't already, jump on board. We're building really nicely. We've got lots of content, interesting content, coming up very soon. Michael Findlay, this is interesting about the training and stuff like that and the punishment, okay? They should all have been in today doing a double session. Barry Cool has said they should have all been dragged in today for extra training. Right. Hang on, guys. Just let me quickly... I'm literally doing this live, so I'm going through some of your... A lot of you have suggested about Johnny Hayes possibly being captain. I get you, but I got to be honest, I'm not sure changing a captain halfway through the season is the right thing psychologically, if you get my point. Guys, there are so many... Again, excuse me, got a bit of a cold. Thank you for all your comments. I've loved having so many of you on tonight. That's a real privilege for me. So thank you. I'm going to call it a day. So obviously we play on Sunday next week. So the preview show, I'll try and get that to you on Sunday morning. And then the review show will be next Monday evening. So we'll give it 24 hours. But Graham Shinney will be with us on Wednesday night. It's about half an hour long. It was a really good chat. Really enjoyed it. Tries to explain why we couldn't quite get over the line in major semi-finals and major cup finals. I found that part of the chat really interesting. So again, guys, thank you so much for being on. Try and enjoy what is left of your Sunday night. Have a good week. And I shall see you again very soon. All the best. Bye.